Hello, welcome back to my channel, Make with Care. My name is Care, and on this channel I talk about all things knitting, sometimes crocheting, and other forms of making. And today I've got a super fun video with a lot of inspiration for this summer. This is all the patterns I would make if I had all the time in the world and had super fast knitting speed. And also some yarns from my stash that I might use to make these. So if you're looking for some summer knitting inspiration, grab a refreshing drink and maybe a project, and let's jump into it. All right, so I do have my notes here on my computer just so I can go through the patterns. So first up, we'll start with some things that are more in the definite category or are in the definite category of things that I would make. I first actually am going to start with what I'm wearing, which is my Ravenna Sleeveless. This is a pattern that is soon going to be released on, I think, June 4th or 5th, maybe this week. And this is a pattern by Meeshyfrazz Knits or Meeshyfrazz. I was a test knitter for this. I knit this up in BC Garn Bio Balance, which is a sport-ish lamb's wool cotton blend. And I absolutely love this pattern. I love the project. I love the outcome. It's super beautiful. I feel like it's really delicate and great for spring and summer even. I also think you could wear this like over a longer shirt for like a transitional piece as well. So yeah, it's got the beautiful Estonian buttons and lace. This pattern calls for a 3mm needle. I knit this up on a 2.75 for the main pattern. And this project took me a little bit over a month to complete. Really beautiful, love this project, and I think it would be really fun in, you know, summer or fall colors even. Like I think this could be a cool vest for fall to knit up in like a really fun orange or something, but for summer, a light or bright color would be really fun. So that is pattern number one. Pattern number two is the Kauri tee by Skeinny Dippin, and here's mine that I knit up. Again, I did this for a test knit, and I've talked about both these projects a lot in my last podcast, so you can check that out if you want to know more about them. But I knit this up in Holst Garn Coast held double. This is a super fast knit. I knit this on 5mm needles, and I think this is a great, super basic summer tee. It's a looser gauge, so it's like a nice fabric for warmer days, especially if you made it in like a just cotton linen blend. I think that would be really awesome. I really like the coast. I think it's very soft, not itchy at all. Really like this yarn. And I do think that this will be a great wear for all but the hottest days. I do think for my particular very humid in the summer climate, I live near Philadelphia, that this might be a little bit warm for peak summer days, but otherwise I think this will be an excellent pattern. And I think if I just made it in not a wool blend, it would be good for summer as well, because it's got the nice scoop neck, which is cooling and refreshing. So this is a super fast knit, very fun, kind of a contiguous saddle shoulder hybrid construction. Like it's got these little saddles that you knit, and this knit up super fast for me, and I really enjoyed knitting this. So definitely would recommend if you're looking for a basic summer tee. All right, now moving into the things that I might actually make this season. All of these I might actually make, but let's start with the ones that are more likely. So first up is the Sevilla blouse by Petite Knit. This is an Aran weight project. It calls for a DK plus a fingering. And it's knit up on 5mm needles. This is a drop shoulder kind of boat neck summer blouse. And the recommended yarns are Santa's Garn Lena and Tin Lena, or Isager Palette and Trio 1. If I was gonna knit it, which spoiler alert, I am, I would knit it in Santa's Garn Lena and Tin Lena in this beautiful brown acorn color. It's color number 3161. But these are some of the recommended yarns, so nothing groundbreaking here. But I think that this would be so great for the summer season in this beautiful brown color. I actually have never knit anything in like this brown that isn't like a colorwork sweater. I have my rosy sweater I knit in a beautiful brown. That was Tin Pure Gint. So kind of similar color to that actually, but this I think will be just a great summer layering piece and like something to wear in the evenings in the summer. Or my family lives in Washington State, so I do often go out there in the summer, and I think that this would be really perfect for that cooler weather. So yeah, I think that this will be a great transitional piece, but also in this like machine washable yarn that it'll just be super good for summer. So I have made stuff in Lena before, and I do machine wash it. I've even machine dried it on accident and it turned out fine. I think it did shrink a little bit. In that case, that's what I was kind of hoping for. But yeah, so I have actually cast this on, which I'll be discussing more in my next podcast, but this is how it's knitting up so far, and I think it just looks lovely. I love the feel of it. It feels like very cool and refreshing. So I'm really looking forward to having this for when I go out to Washington this summer. And also just, you know, kind of nice to have for maybe going in and out of shops when the air conditioning is like so cold and I'm like hot from outside and back and forth. So that is the Petite Knit Sevilla blouse. Up next, kind of keeping with the theme of like a layering piece for summer, is the Olga jacket, also by Petite Knit. There are like quite a few Petite Knit patterns in here, not like a ton I don't think, but I know some people get tired of her, but I do think that she's got some really great basics, and she had the sale recently, so I stocked up on some patterns just for some good basics. So this next one is the Olga jacket. It is a striped cardigan. It calls for a DK weight yarn. It calls for pure Gint. I would knit this up in a cotton. I've talked about this in my knitting podcast, but here's a swatch I actually made for it. And this is Ericanite Gossypium, which is like a 100% cotton tweed yarn. So this is what I use to make my swatch. I've talked about this before, but I think this would be really a good kind of like just cotton cardigan to throw on and off. I think for summer I love stripes. You'll see I have a few more striped patterns in here, and I think this would be so perfect for the summer season. Yeah, it calls for a 4mm needle, which is what I knit this up on, and I think the fabric is pretty good. I think it'll be obviously pretty heavy as it's cotton, but I think it'll be a really nice cardigan. Okay, the last long sleeve kind of summer garment that I'm considering is blouse number 1. And I wanted to make this for a while, and I think it calls for 2 light fingerings held together. The recommended yarn is Knitting for All of Pure Silk held double, which would make a really lovely fabric. It's knit up on 5mm needles, so kind of similar to the Sevilla blouse, except for I think a lighter fabric, like a lighter gauge than that. It also has like the rolled kind of stockinette boat neck, and it's got really pretty like bell sleeves, which I think is kind of its distinguishing feature. It's also plain stockinette. The only thing like making me hesitate about this pattern is the rolled neckline, but it has 3150 projects, and I think it looks good on so many people. So I am thinking it would work out well. If I was going to make this, the yarn I would use for my stash is Noro Campeto. I think I'm saying that right. This is a 35% silk, 35% cotton, 30% polyamide yarn. And I got this on a sale at a yarn shop like last summer. And I think this yarn is super pretty. It's like mostly purple with a lot of variegated pieces. And I have enough to make this garment. I think this would really suit a plain stockinette because of all the detail. I wouldn't want to lose the detail. Yeah, this recommends a 3.5 to 4mm needle, and it says it's a DK weight. And yeah, I think it's a really cool yarn, and I think it would suit this pattern because the pattern is very simple. So I think that that would work well. So yeah, that's blouse number 1. Okay, moving on from long sleeve, we're done with that. Now we're gonna talk about some boat neck shirt options. I've been loving a boat neck recently, clearly, as you can tell from my last two long sleeves. But the first one I've been considering is the Sabai top. This is obviously a very popular top. This is by Paula Strict or Suzanne Mueller. And this calls for a DK weight yarn. One of the suggested yarns is Santa's Garn Lena 4mm needle. And this doesn't have very good size range, just to point that out. It's like extra small to 2XL. Yeah, so this is an extremely popular pattern with over 8,400 projects. So this is not groundbreaking by any means, but it's a very simple boat neck with two different options. One is like a ribbing at the top and one is a rolled neck. If I were to make this, I think the yarn for my stash I would use is Drop Spell. I have enough to make this in black. The only thing making me hesitate about casting this on is I'm not sure that black is really my color. And there's another pattern that came out that I'll talk about in a second that I'm kind of contemplating making instead. I think the fit is maybe more what I would like right now. This is like a very loose stripey fit, which I think would be cool. I probably will knit it up at some point just because I feel like it's one of those summer patterns that everybody makes and it looks very simple to make. I think it's top down, very few techniques. The pattern even says like super easy to knit, so it might be a nice like travel project or something like that. So yeah, if I do make it, I think I'll make it my Drop Spell. All right, let's talk about the pattern that I'm probably gonna make instead of the Sabai top, and that is the B top. Pick which one you think works. I'm gonna say Baya, because I think that's fun. The Baya top by Petite Knit, and this is a new pattern that came out in May 2026. It recommends holding Santa's Garn Tinlita, knitting for all of pure silk, Issachar Yarn Trio 2 double as the recommended yarn. And so fingering plus fingering is DK, 20 stitch gauge. Knit up on 3.5mm needles. So a little bit of a denser gauge than some of the other patterns we've seen. And this is knit bottom up, I believe. Yeah, so this is bottom up, which is a lot different than a lot of these other patterns. I think it might be fun to try bottom up. I've knit like one thing very, very early on in my knitting career bottom up. Everything else I've made has been top down. I love the neckline on this. This is like a boat neckline, but it's definitely like a more fitted, and it's not like the rolled stockinette, which I think the rolled stockinette looks nice, but it's kind of like not, it looks like more fitted and like it wouldn't droop as much, which really does appeal to me. I love how the armholes look in the sample picture. Granted, you know, she's just showing it on her body, but I think it looks really nice. I like how fitted the top is overall, not a ton of positive ease, and I think it looks really sleek. So I'm definitely interested in knitting this. I actually don't currently have anything in my stash that I think I would like to use for this. I don't have Tinlina enough to make it double. I don't have any of these yarns in enough quantities, so I might order a red. I've been on a search for a bright red fingering weight summer yarn. I ideally would like Tinlina in a bright red, but I went to look and what they call scarlet red is like an orangey red, which isn't the vibe I'm looking for. So I think I'm leaning towards maybe trying the Issachar Trio 2. So that could be really fun for this tank. And yeah, I think I will make this, maybe not immediately, but later on in the summer. Okay, and then rounding out the boat neck tank kind of situation is the Mix for Cami by Florence Miller. This calls for a fingering weight yarn. I believe it calls for knitting for olive merino, which is a light fingering, and it calls for a 3mm and then 2.5 for the finishings. I have made this previously. I made this last summer, and this was my favorite summer knit of last summer. And I made it in knitting for olive cotton merino in the beautiful red currant. Can you tell I have a current favorite color? I've mentioned red several times. I love red. I knit this last year And this is a little bit like flowy and oversized on me now, which I really like, but I would love to have another fitted version of this. So I'm actually tempted to make it again in like a similar color, but I think if I make the V top and like Baya top in a similar color, then maybe I can make this in a different color. Yeah, I think a wool blend is nice, or a wool blend is nice for this tank because of all the ribbed. Like, you obviously want that memory from wool for it. This is a top-down pattern, by the way, and it's knitted flat for a while because, you know, you've got like the armholes, and it is a lot of twisted stitches. That's the only part I remember about this pattern that was a little bit frustrating, but I actually don't mind twisted stitches so much now, so I don't think that would bother me. And I loved wearing this so much that I think I really would like another one. So some yarn ideas I have are potentially getting a merino. I also have knitting for all of merino in petroleum green, which could be really beautiful in that top. I also have Holst Garn Coast in cobalt. This is actually what I'm leaning towards if I wanted to make this tank. I think this is a really fun bright blue. It is a fingering weight yarn, and it is 55% lamb's wool, 45% cotton. And this blooms really nicely. So I think this would actually be a great choice because it would fluff up. Like, it really bloomed a lot. I mean, I held it double here, but it bloomed a ton when I used it for my Kauri tee. Like, I held 2 strands of this at 5 millimeters, and it's not a gappy fabric. So I think that this would be, I think that this might be a really good choice for this pattern. So yeah, I might, if I'm gonna make it, if I was using from stash, I think that I would pick this yarn. All right, let's talk a little bit about Pointelle. Pointelle is having a super moment right now, and everybody is knitting the Marielle blouse or the Marielle cardigan, which are also of interest to me. But I'm actually thinking about knitting one of those for fall. I'm thinking about doing it in like a fun orange yarn for fall. I have, just for fun, everybody knows about the Marielle blouse, the Marielle cardigan. I have these yarns, which if I can't get over my Pointelle obsession, I might make the Marielle cardigan in this. I got these really early on in my knitting career and I've not used them. And I've heard, frankly, really bad things about the tin silk mohair, but I would like to decide for myself. I do think that Sunday is wonderful. So these together hopefully would make a really pretty Marielle cardigan. So just throwing that out there. Sorry. Back to the Petite Pointelle Tank by Destiny Designs. This was released last month. It calls for a sport weight. The recommended yarn is Wandering Flock Cotton Lino, and it's knitted up on a 3.5 and 2.75 millimeter needle. The sizes are interesting. So it's got like 6 full chest measurements, from 33 to 66 inches, depending on fit, I think. And then it has like, I think it's got different, 12 options for final body circumference. So there's like 6 yokes and then 12 options for the body, I believe. I don't own the pattern, so I can't know for sure. But Jessie Mead is a really cool designer, and she also does this like choose what you pay pricing models for like subscribers. So she's gonna be a good designer to look into if some of the patterns are just like maybe not the most accessible. So yeah, I think there's she does some really cool stuff, and she's got some wonderful patterns. So this pattern looks like it would knit up super quick. It's got this beautiful Pointelle, and then I love the hem. I've seen so many samples or like projects that people have made with the beautiful hem on the bottom. I think this would look so cute with like a white skirt like what I'm wearing today. The model, which is Park, I think, is wearing it with jean shorts, which looks great as well. If I were to knit this, I saw someone knit this in this yarn and I was like, oh, I got some of this on clearance. So I've been wanting to try this too. I've heard great things about it. This is the Rowan Cotton Revive yarn. And this is 80% cotton, 20% other fibers, which I believe is like recycled cotton, I think. Not 100% sure. And it's like a chainette construction yarn that's like cotton. It feels like this is 100 grams, 250 meters. Yeah, so 3.75 millimeters is the recommended needle for this, but I saw someone knit this tank in this yarn, and I think that this would be a beautiful color for it as well. So this is high in my consideration actually for things to make, because I would love to use this yarn. I think it's so fun, and I've heard nothing but great things about this yarn. So would love to use it. I did get this on, I don't know if they're discontinuing it or what is going on with this yarn, but I think I got this for $4 a ball, which is crazy because that's 250 meters of yarn for $4. And this is, you know, not like necessarily the most budget brand. It's not, I don't think this is an expensive brand in terms of, you know, fancy yarn, but yeah, the price really impressed me and people love this yarn. So yeah, this is a strong contender to make the Petite Pointelle tank in. All right, the next top I want to talk about is one that I've actually not heard a lot about from others. And this is the Flurry top by Friday Knits. This was released last May, and this is a Pointelle tank with like a little tie and a ruffle bottom. This strongly reminds me of a Cezanne top. I'll put a picture up of it. I don't remember what it's called, but I tried it on in the store and I loved it, but I think they wanted 100 pounds for it. I was in the UK when I tried it on. And it's cotton, 100% cotton. And I was like, man, it's like a thicker one too. And I was like, I feel like this should be very knittable. It was knit, it's, you know, knit. And I saw this pattern and I think that this is like very, very close to it. And honestly, it looks so cute. Really love this pattern. It calls for an Aran weight. The recommended yarns are Wool and the Gang Shiny Happy Cotton and We Are Knitters the Cotton. Aran weight 4.5 millimeter needles, and it has a good size range as well, it looks like. Yeah, I think this looks so cute, and it's only got 27 projects, but the projects that people have got look cute as well. I do think that this is a top that needs a specific styling, but I do think that a lot of the projects look really cute. There's like a green one that I really like that someone knit in Drops Cotton, which is a DK. I see some knit up in Lena. I think someone held a Sport Double. Yeah, like Lion Brand Pima Cotton, which is an Aran. I see someone using a 24/7 cotton worsted, which I actually have in stash, I think. So this yarn is, or this top I think is super duper cute, and I don't think enough people are talking about it, frankly. I'm not sure which yarn I would use. I think I would like to knit this, like the Cezanne one, in like, honestly, like this kind of color. I don't think that this yarn is, I think I'd have to hold it double for this pattern. I don't know that I have enough. I might actually. So this could potentially be a good option, held double. I also think the 24/7 cotton could be great. Very affordable kind of yarn. Yeah, not positive on the yarn to use here, but I think that this is a great pattern and definitely something worth considering. Since it is just a little tank top and knit up on 4.5 millimeter needles, I think this would be super quick. All right, and the last Pointelle inspired project, or Pointelle project that I'm inspired by, that I'm going to discuss, is the Holly bandana. And this is another pattern by Paula Strict or Suzanne Mueller. This is a super cute bandana that is knit up on fingering yarn. The recommended yarns are Knitting for All of Pure Silk, Filcolana and Nina, which I'm not familiar with, and Ito Shimo. I think it calls for around 1 skein-ish or less of that yarn. And I've seen so many of these on social media. They look so cute. If I was gonna knit this, I would use my leftover Knitting for All of Cotton Merino from last year's tank that I made. And this is in the color Red Currant. I actually super wanna make this. I've never really worn bandanas. I was asking my partner, like, oh, what do you think of this? He's like, you've never worn a bandana in your life. And I'm like, well, maybe now I could start. So I'm definitely thinking about casting that on in this yarn. Yeah. So this is a big, high up on the list. I think this would be a great little travel project because it only calls for one ball. I might toss this in when I go traveling along with another project just to be able to work on 2 different ones, since this won't take up very much space. It is knit up on 3mm needles. So yeah, that is the Holly bandana. All right, and I made a bundle of all these patterns, but I'm only going to talk about a couple more just briefly. And these last few, I don't have any specific yarns on hand that I would use, so I'll just run through them kind of quick and maybe talk about what I might use if I was going to make it. So first up is a square neck camisole. This is a 3x3 ribbed top knit up in a light fingering yarn. The recommended yarns are the Knitting for Olive, Cotton Merino, and Santa's Garden Sunday. It's knit up on a 3mm needle. And this pattern only goes up to an XXL. So kind of, again, a disappointing range like a few of the others. I would probably use Knitting for Olive Merino because this is a 3x3 rib pattern. It's got the beautiful double knit edges. And I think it looks really, really flattering. I've seen a lot of projects on this, and there's 719 as of filming, and they all look really pretty. So yeah, this is definitely a possibility. I think I would probably make this or the mixer of Cami. You know, maybe one after the other, but you know, as they're fingering weight, I think that those do take time. So another tank top that's a fingering weight tank is the 9 p.m. tank by Tiffany Ty. And the suggested yarns are long here, but it's also Knitting for Olive Merino, Cotton Merino, Santa's Garden Sunday, Rosa Pomar Mondim, and then Cascade 220 fingering. This is knit on a 3.25mm needle, so maybe one of those sock yarns or like a fluffier yarn. I worry that Cotton Merino might be a little bit too thin for this project, but it would definitely be like a nice fabric. This is just a very simple stockinette. Looks like a well-fitting tank, and yeah, I like the edging details. Again, very simple. I think this might be good if you had like 1 or 2 skeins of a really pretty sock yarn and you wanted to make a summer tank out of it. I think this might be a nice option. Okay, and then the Genie top is a pattern by Milena Uhola. Sorry. This was published in August 2024. This is a worsted weight pattern, and the recommended yarns are Lang yarns, Amira and Ortega. I think I've seen this knit up in Santa's Garden Lena or Drops Belle. I've seen Drops Paris in here too. This is worsted. It calls for 3.5 and 4.5mm needles, and there's 9 sizes. This looks like a super fun summer top. Like, it would be very breathable if you knit this up in like a summer yarn. Probably wouldn't do wool for this pattern because it is just stockinette, so I think it'd be a good opportunity to do a true summer yarn. It looks very breathable, so I think that this could be super fun for like a tropical or like very hot days. I also think that this would make a super cute like cover up for the beach, or top to wear to the beach, around the pool, stuff like that. I probably would consider making this in like Drops Belle or Santa's Garden Lena. There's a new pattern that I want to discuss. It's called the Isolde top by Schwarzspanner. I'm so sorry. Yes, his name. It was released in May, right, this month. Santa's Garden Lena or Drops Belle are the recommended yarns, and it calls for a 4mm and a 3mm needle. It's got a really good looking size range on it, and it's this beautiful striped tank with a distinctive like curved hem. I think that this top is so pretty. I've seen it a lot on Instagram. I think it'd be super fun. I love knitting stripes. I think they're very engaging, and I think that this could be a super fun sporty kind of tee. Like, maybe make it in your favorite baseball team's colors or something like that, or like a beachy sort of moment with like navy blue and white. I think Drops Belle or Lena would be a great choice. Bella is so nice because it's such an affordable yarn. And then Lena usually has better colors except for red. So yes, Garn, we need to have a conversation. I'm not over this. Anyways, besides that, I think these would be two great choices. And I definitely would choose one of them if I was making this top. All right, we're on the last pattern that I'm going to discuss. There's a few more in the bundle, so it will be linked in the description. But the next top I want to discuss is the Darjeeling top by Trust the Mojo. And this is a pattern that's a few years old. There's also the Darjeeling blouse, which is a very similar pattern just with sleeves. And this is a tank top that's buttoned up in the front. It's got a beautiful like lacy curved detail along the bottom. This calls for a sport weight yarn. Katia Cotton Cashmere is the recommended yarn. And it's knit up on a 3.5 and 4.5 millimeter needle. I think this looks like it'd be a super quick knit. I think sport weight is good for summer. That kind of balances between taking a while to knit up and also being light and breathable enough. So I think that sport weight is honestly like maybe a little underutilized for summer patterns. But this looks really cute. I actually think that the blouse might look cuter. Depends on like the vibe you're going for. I think they both look great. I think any sport weight yarn, I'm not really sure what I would use. I think this is a sport weight, isn't it? I think it is. I don't know, I forgot already. But this might be good. Or I think Durham Natura Antigone could be cool. It's a beautiful like linen yarn. So yeah, I think there's a lot of options. And I think this doesn't call for too much yarn. So maybe 2 to 3 skeins of a sport weight yarn would be enough for this top. All right, so that wraps up all the patterns I wanted to discuss. I know that's a lot, but there's so many cute summer patterns out there. I mean, there's so many that I did not discuss and are not on this list, but these are all ones that I could see myself making this summer. You know, like how you think about yourself and all the things you're gonna knit, and you're like, oh yeah, I totally can knit 15 things in 3 months. So these are the things that are currently inspiring me and guiding my potential knits for the next few months. I would love to hear which of the projects I discussed you might think about casting on, or if you got other summer plans already or something already on your needles, I would love to hear about it. I love summer knitting and I think it's so much fun. So I'm really excited to continue summer knitting this year. I feel like I've already started. So yeah, if you made it this far in the video, I would love it if you would consider subscribing. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for watching.